Welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show, a Daddiest production. This podcast is for you, Dad. This is where we talk about all things related to dadhood, from parenting to relationships to financial and physical health. Your hosts, Dr. Scott and Dr. Evan, are two dads who are committed to helping you. Join our Facebook community by searching Daddiest, where conscious dads connect and collaborate.
And welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. I'm your co-host, Dr. Scott, and I've got with me Dr. Ev. And on the show today, we've got our most awesome guest ever, Dr. Fabrizio Mancini. For those of you who are chiropractors who are listening, he needs no introduction, but we do have a lot of non-chiropractors listening, a lot of dads out there. So I'm going to give the brief intro and then hand it over to Dr. Fab, because he has an amazing life journey. In the pre-show, we've had a chat about what he's been through and what he's doing, and it's just blows my mind. So super excited to have him on the show. So Dr. Fab is America's #1 health living media expert, world-renowned chiropractor, Hay House's international best-selling author of The Power of Self-Healing, which is a book that is in my lending library in my practice at the moment, and host of his popular radio show, Self-Healing with Dr. Fab. He's also the best-selling author of Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, an internationally acclaimed educator, business leader, speaker, president of Emirates. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Emeritus of Parker University. He's been featured on Dr. Phil, The Doctors, Fox News, CNN, CBS, all the 3-syllable ones, ABC, NBC, Univision, Telemundo. He's been everywhere. He's been interviewed in various documentaries and has received honors including Heroes for Humanity, Humanitarian of the Year, CEO of the Year, the induction into the Wellness Revolutionaries Hall of Fame. He's a graduate of the prestigious Institute of Educational Management in the Graduate School of Education at Harvard University. And most recently, President of Mexico named the library at UNEVE. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Maybe we'll talk about that. Mexico's new leading university. There we go. Check him out at drfabmancini.com. So Dr. Fab, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this. And I tell you, I'm a big fan. And I really commend you for inspiring us dads every time that we turn on your podcast.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We met way back when in 2002 at a seminar, and I've really looked up to you ever since and was absolutely blown away when I saw you on shows like I mentioned, like Dr. Phil and the Doctors and stuff. And so I think the listeners are going to get a huge amount of value out of this episode. And I would love to hear your journey, because we did talk a little bit about it in the pre-show, and it's just mesmerizing to hear, what you've done and where you've been. So I'll hand it over to you to get started, and we'll just ask questions along the way to fill in the gaps.
Well, I appreciate that. And welcome everybody. I hope that this session, this podcast will inspire you, will motivate you, will give you some education. But more importantly, my intention will be that this podcast will help you transform from the person that you are right now to the person that you were meant to be as a dad. I can tell you that I've been very blessed in my life, that I grew up with a very loving father and a very loving mother. And the values that your parents give you as a child, in my opinion, is the foundation that have allowed me to build my life the way that I have. My father was Italian, my mother Colombian. I was born in Colombia, South America, in a small city called Barranquilla, Colombia. And I lived there for my first 13 years. Moved to the United States when I was 13 to go to Miami. My parents wanted us to have a better future and more open and opportunities that we did not have in Colombia. So, one of the first lessons I learned from my dad is his willingness to sacrifice his own pleasure, his own lifestyle for the sake of their children. We've seen that over the years, parents, especially dads, will sacrifice many things, whether it is working double shifts or perhaps being in a job that they don't really enjoy, but it provides for the family, or maybe having to commute and travel just to be able to maintain, the household. And I want you to know my dad did the same for me, and he taught me a great lesson that sometimes the sacrifices that we make today for our children will end up being the greatest gifts that you can give your children. All of us were raised in an environment that my dad asked us for two things. The first one was, do not get married until you're 30. And the main reason he asked for that was because he got married when he was just out of high school. And he felt that even though he loved my mother, he wasn't the best husband or the best father because of his immaturity. So he felt that in your 30s, you have a little bit more maturity, a little bit more stability to select and truly be the best version of yourself to your partner. The second thing that he requested from us was to never settle for a career that we did not love. He taught us that choosing a career should not be about the amount of money that you'll make, but the amount of passion and love that you have for that career. He always said that when you love your career, you never feel like you go to work. So therefore, it allows you to fulfill your potential as a human being and, of course, your potential in that particular career. So those were two lessons that we were reminded constantly with that have really shaped my life to what I have become today. And I'll give you an opportunity to ask me any questions in those two things or anything I've said so far.
Well, really, from my perspective, you've already given some really, really cool value. Like, I love the idea of the sacrifices you make for your kids might be the greatest lesson that you can give them. I never really thought about it that way. At Daddiest with our P6, we're all really about trying to let dads experience or understand that they can have it all, that they can do all that they want. If put in the right direction and doing the right things for long enough, you can get what you want out of life. So I really like that idea, because at certain points in life, there's going to be sacrifice made. And then those lessons that your dad taught you, can you talk a little bit more about this idea of not settling for a career that you don't love? Did you at some point do that, or did that lesson that your dad teach you at the time really get instilled and you never did settle? Or was there times where you did and then you got like out of focus and started settling and then realizing that you weren't doing what you really wanted to and was able to focus and shift out of that?
That's a great question. So the way that it happened was that my father grew up with a father that was an immigrant from Italy and landed in Colombia after the war in Europe, like many Italians coming to America for what they thought it was a land of opportunity. So my grandfather landed in Colombia with his brother, and they started a olive oil company, and then they moved into pastas and breads, and they became one of the largest in South America. So my grandfather, since my dad was one of the oldest of 13 children, he had conditioned him to understand that his career was going to be to work for the family when he graduated and be able to continue the work that my grandfather started. Well, my dad, unfortunately, had other plans for himself. He wanted to be a professional soccer player. He wanted to do different types of things. He wanted to travel the world. And when he went to his father with that idea, his father was very upset with him and told him that he will never do that. And to make it worse, a few years later, my grandfather passes away, and my dad now is the leader of this huge company with a lot of immaturity and not really doing what he wanted to do. So he turned to alcohol as a coping mechanism and became an alcoholic. And that's one of the reasons why he said that he was encouraging us to wait to get married, because that alcoholism made it very tough for my mother and many of us as we were younger. So fast forward the clock, and my son, since he was 8 years old, my oldest, Gianni, he wanted to be a tennis player. So he went to special school, played 6 hours a day on average every single day, got to go to college, the third college in the nation in tennis, got to play in that team, became very successful. And in his last year, he decides that he does not want to be a tennis pro anymore, even though that's been his whole life since he was 8 years old. So when he came to me with that idea that, Dad, I'm not going to be a tennis pro, which is what we had talked about since he was 8, I went back to that place when I had that discussion, and my father had that discussion with his father. And this is what I said to him. I said, the one thing I want you to know is that the discipline that you learn in tennis is the same discipline that you will take into any career, and you will always be successful. The only thing I want for you is to love and have passion. And if your passion changes, it's okay to change. So if now it's electronic music production and that's what you want to do, then I want to support you 100% with that. And it was a big relief on him. So he graduated early the last year. He didn't play tennis his last year. He played the first 3 years. And he got accepted at the best school for electronic music production in Los Angeles. But this is another thing I added that my dad never taught me. I said, Gianni, I want you to do your passion, but I also want you to know that every career has a business model. And you have to find out what the business model is for you that will allow you to support your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is $50,000 a year, great. If your lifestyle is $500,000 a year, great. If your lifestyle is $5 million a year, great. I just want you to look for those models in the electronic music production and find out who are the people in that industry that are doing the best and what is it that they actually do to bring that much value, so therefore they can make as much money as they want to. So he did some research, and a month later he says to me, Dad, I've been researching what you said, and I learned that the number one electronic music producer last year made $87 million. And this is what he's doing, Dad. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And now he's very successful in his graduate school because he recognizes that the learning and the skill of being an electronic music production is one aspect of success. The other aspect is you have to identify a model that you feel will allow you to live your lifestyle. And that's how I added to what my dad taught me, and how hopefully he'll take that and maybe one day he'll take that to another level with his own son.
That's really cool. I love that idea of the discipline that you learn in tennis is, it crosses all areas of life. So it was still fantastic. He followed his passion. He loved it, but his passion changed. So that's absolutely fine. But find a way to create a lifestyle out of your passion. And that's what he's done. And, 87 million might be enough. Hey, that's a lot.
I don't know what his lifestyle is going to be.
Electronic music production.
Yeah, it's up to him. I did a segment for Fox News, and this for all of you dads will make a difference. The one thing that I always talk to dads about is the idea of the role of a dad being primarily a provider for a family. We know that that's changing in today's world because we know that our mothers now are having to work for the most part, or wanting to work. And that also that there's a lot of women that are now becoming the highest earners in the family. What I tell dads today is to recognize that providing financially is only one aspect of it. That your children and your spouse, what they really want is providing emotionally. That means that they want you to be there, present in your conversations, present for the moments that count, present in the sense so that you are engaging on a daily basis. So I say that primarily because I recognize that as dads, many times, we're thinking, and even when I go back to my beginnings, I wanted to be a doctor, and I didn't know what kind of doctor. And then I did some research, and I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And then I was involved in an accident that led me to chiropractic care that changed my life because it taught me how important it is to prevent disease and to be able to pay attention to your lifestyle choices. And it brought the awareness of having a healthy nervous system can really make a difference on your health and your well-being. So I interviewed 62 chiropractors in 6 months and decided to change my career path into chiropractic care. And when I chose Parker University was because Dr. Parker at that time was considered the most influential chiropractor in the world. And I wanted to learn from him. And that's what most of the people that I interviewed said, if I had an opportunity to go back to school, I want to learn from Jimmy Parker. And when I went into that school, I went hungry. I went humble. I went with a desire to make the best of myself in this industry. And he noticed. And he was the one that began to mentor me. I never asked him to mentor me. And all of a sudden, many years later, I asked him, why did you select me, even though you have 3 children that are chiropractors, and you have thousands of chiropractors out there that you've influenced that would love to be mentored by you? And he said, because you're hungry, and I see myself in you. And this was a very good lesson for me to recognize that, you know, the way my friend Wayne Dyer put it is, he said to me many years ago, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I want you to know that as a dad, we need to be humble. We need to be students of life. We need to be always seeking ways to improve whatever we're doing, improve your relationship with your spouse, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Improve your relationship with your children, improve your ability to perform and contribute great value to your work so you can be worth more money in the future. Be able to really pay attention to the balance that you have in your life and take care of your health. You know, many times men die sooner than women because we don't take care of our health as much as women. And if we want to be healthy long term, instead of retiring in our 60s, but without any quality of life, what's the benefit of that? Even if you were very financially successful, money will never allow you to have health. So take care of yourself. You only got one body. Take care of yourself. And that was a big lesson for me, because it reminded me that when you're humble, that your teachers appear. And I continue to do that in my life today.
Wow, that's a fantastic lesson for the dads out there. And I'm curious. I'm curious. You said that we would talk about relationships, and that's a big topic in Daddiest. We have it under the 6 P's. We have it under the passion P. And one of the things that we find a lot of dads are struggling with is their relationship, and we see a lot of divorce happening. Statistics are terrible, and it's, you know, the stats, not just the divorce stats are terrible, but what happens to the kids when the parents separate are terrible. And it's something that we really want to change. We want to really help dads be strong partners, and really help be the glue for keeping marriages strong and keeping them together, and having those kids raised with both parents in the household. Do you have anything to share in the area of relationships for us?
Yes, thank you for asking. So the number one lesson that I've learned over the years is that the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. You know, for years I've been teaching that it all begins with you unconditionally loving yourself, so you can unconditionally love others. Our love in today's standards have become very conditional. And the problem with conditional love is that it has a set of expectations. And as you know, the higher the expectations, the bigger the disappointments. So what I encourage every dad to do is to begin with yourself. So let me give you primarily the 2 emotions that allow you to heal and allow you to love yourself unconditionally. And it's very simple. I'm not going to share anything that is new, but I'm going to put it in a different context. In order for you to love yourself unconditionally, you must forgive your past. And the challenge right now is that many times when we develop patterns in our behavior, they tend to be primarily on issues that are what we call unresolved issues. If you were raised with a parent that the only way they showed you affection was when you did something good, and then you got punished when you did something bad, you most likely were going to follow that pattern when you have your own children. If you were raised with a family, or let's say a dad that hit you physically as a child, and even though you swear to yourself you will never do that, statistics have shown that over 80% of the people that were physically abused will end up being physical abusers. So we know that these are patterns. And so you need to learn to forgive your past, forgive primarily the imperfections of your parents. No parent is perfect. So just know as dads, you're doing the best you can. Some of you have more to give than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't keep improving and trying to be the better version of yourself. But you must give the best that you have. So the more you work on yourself by forgiving the past, forgiving yourself for, like I have a lot of dads that come to me beating themselves up for maybe passing up good jobs in the early days. And then all of a sudden they saw their friends driving the nice cars and having the big house, and they said that could have been me. Or perhaps passing on a particular opportunity that they had, or maybe a career path that they were offered at one point, or maybe the ability to get that master's degree instead of going right into work as soon as you finish your college. Forgive your past. Everything that has happened to you up to this point is prepare you for this moment. The question is, what are you going to do with this moment? And you get to do it again and again every day. So understand that your past is there to prepare you for today. And as soon as you forgive yourself for any mistakes you've made and anything that you feel bad about, the sooner you can move forward with the present, which is where every opportunity is. And then the second emotion, and this has been backed by science, is gratitude. You see, gratitude helps us move away from the future and get back into the present. And many dads right now are waiting for that perfect relationship, But when we get to this point with my kids, I'm going to be the best that I can. When my wife and I get into this point, I'm going to be the best husband, or whatever the case may be. And if you're a single dad, when I attract that perfect second wife, or second person, then I'm going to be the best man that I can be. It doesn't work like that. Many dads are saying to themselves, when I get this big raise, then I can go ahead and do something that you've been wanting to do. Or when I get that corner office or that promotion, then I'm going to go ahead and we can take a vacation. The gratitude is where you start thinking through your life and appreciating everything you have and everyone in it, like if it's the last time you will see them. Imagine waking up in the morning, and how would you treat your wife if this was the last time you will see her? Would you wake up early or would you wake up late? Would you wake up early enough to tell her how much she means to you and what contributions she has made to allow you to be the person you are? Would you even take time to make love to her? Or would you rush out of bed the way most people do every morning? If you have children, would you wake up early enough to be with them and nurture them and maybe even cook breakfast for them? Or would you yell across the room, "You're going to be late for school, hurry up"? These are the things that I think about every single day. And if you go to work, how would you show up? How would you treat your boss or your employees? Would you be appreciative for the opportunity they gave you? How would you treat your customers? So you see, gratitude allows you to truly live in the moment and not take anyone or anything for granted. If your car is not a very nice car, it's still a car. I mean, talk to anybody that's having to take public transportation. They will trade in with you any moment, no matter what junky of a car you have. And if you don't have nice shoes, talk to somebody that's barefooted. Just appreciate everything you have, and you live a much happier life. So these emotions allow you to forgive, and move into unconditional love. And then gratitude is the other emotion that allows you to move to unconditional love. If you practice that on a daily basis, I can tell you right now that before you can be the man you were destined to be for your partner, it has to start with yourself. And then as you work through that, now all of a sudden, how are you going to show up for that relationship? Are you going to be a better listener than a talker? Many times we tune ourselves up because women like to talk and men like to do. It's one of the basic differences of men and women. And a lot of times what a woman wants is for you to just listen, just sit there and listen to my frustration. And I don't want you to fix it for me. I just want you to listen. And that's a big, hard change for men because we're not made that way, Another one I can tell you, and I've interviewed a lot of very wealthy women that have told me that they will give away all those millions as long as her man can look at her the way that he looked at her when he was courting her, when he was dating her. You see, as men, a lot of times we feel like all my spouse wants is providing, and that is not true. Maybe we get caught up in a lifestyle that is more expensive than we can afford, but the reality of it is your connection, your intimacy with your significant other, with your partner, with your wife, is one that needs to be very clear, that is based not on materialism, but that is based on your feelings and respect for each other. So my suggestion is invest more in experiences rather than material things. A lot of men, they think that, what a woman wants is always material things. And granted, of course, they like nice things. But I want you to know that sometimes just taking that trip that you've been wanting to take, or maybe an experience of a date unlike any other date, or maybe the fact that you decided to just stay home and run a nice bath and cook dinner. I mean, these are the little things that make all the difference in a relationship that you have. And always making sure that you're communicating clearly as to where you're heading, so that way they can be a part of that process and not feel left out. That happens a lot because we don't want to bring sometimes business discussions to our relationship. But I'm here to tell you that as much as we don't want to think about it, they're with us in this journey just as much as our children, if you're blessed to have children. So communicate and make it a part of that. This is family decisions that we're making for the benefit of all, rather than just for the sake of making more money. And then you'll be surprised how you can really build your relationship to a whole new level.
Whew, that was awesome.
Love it.
What I want to do is circle back because, love the idea of forgiving your past. This idea of gratitude. I know I've struggled with it in the past as to how to implement it, being aware and bringing your thoughts back to the present moment. But do you have any practical tips for the dads out there, or specific things that they can be doing? Is it journaling? Is it, what kind of process have you found works the best with the thousands of people you've worked with, from, everyday people to high-end CEOs to mums to dads? Do you have a process that, for me, to help me be more grateful and be in the moment?
That's great. So the first one, and this is not a new one, is it's been around for a long time, but it's been one of my favorites, and that is creating a gratitude journal. And the way that I've experienced it for myself is at least 3 things that I'm grateful for. 3 things that day that happened that I'm grateful for. It could be very minor gestures, maybe your wife packed lunch for you and put it in your briefcase without telling you about it. And then you got to the office and you're like, oh my gosh, you made me my favorite sandwich. Or it could be a friend of you that called you just to check in on you because they know that you were going through a difficult financial time. And just the idea of a friend just looking after you. Or it could be just as simple as being stuck in traffic and somebody lets you in so you can move forward. Just be grateful for every little thing. Be purposeful in your gratefulness, meaning be aware that there's an opportunity to be grateful in everything that you do in life. The second one that I do, and this is a little different than most people, is to be able to recognize that we want to be very grateful and thankful to those around us that allow us to function. And it begins with your significant other, your spouse, your girlfriend. It also begins with your children, and of course your parents. You know, my dad unfortunately had a complication of a surgery, and he passed away at 64 years old. And to this day, I cannot add any more days to my dad, right? Because he lasted about a year in intensive care and then later hospice. But I'm here to tell you that one of the biggest recognitions that I made is that nobody told me that my dad was not going to be here. And I would have, I think, done a few things differently knowing that. So don't take your parents for granted. I know sometimes they can be annoying. I know sometimes they have very strong belief systems and opinions, but understand that that doesn't mean that those have to be yours too. But you just want to nurture them, take care of them. You know, I'm getting ready to get on a plane tomorrow with my brothers to surprise my mom for Mother's Day. Why? Because, we treasure her. She's 77 years old, and we don't want to ever take a day, because 14 years ago, my dad passed away, and we can't have him anymore. So treasure them. And the people in your life. So be grateful for them. And then, of course, like I said earlier, ask yourself the question, if this is the last time I'm going to see this person, what would I tell them? Imagine dealing with that every single day with everyone in your life. What would I share with somebody that I probably have not shared? And then you start really picking at the little things that have gone unsaid that really probably are the ones that mean the most to the person in front of you. So that's one thing. The other one is that I continue to ask myself, let's say on material things, many times we're always striving to have a better car, a better house, a better everything in life. But a lot of times, how many times do you wake up in the morning? Like my friend Louise Hay used to tell me, she is the publisher of Hay House, published my 4th book. And she said, the first thing I do in the morning is thank my bed. I just talk to my bed and say, thank you for allowing me to have a restful sleep. I feel so good right now. And it wasn't because of you, I would not feel like this. And then she would go in and look at herself in the mirror. And instead of looking at all the imperfections, she would say, I love you, Luis. You're perfect. I am so grateful for you to have another day where you can contribute to the lives of others, because that's what she wanted to do. She started her company at 65 years old and became the #1 publishing company in personal development with over 36 million customers, at 65 years old. So she was grateful. She was grateful for the opportunity to contribute, to bring all these great authors to people so they can be inspired, so they can learn how to do things, so they can know that anyone out there can do it if this person that they read could do it too. So, make a list of the things that you feel that you would like to be more grateful, and then set an action step to do something every single day to show that gratefulness to those individuals, to that experience that you're having. So that way, not one day goes ungrateful, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that idea of sort of preempting it, doing it in the future, like make a list of what we could and should be already grateful for, like your bed in the morning. And so, yeah, that helps me out a lot. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I think dads will get a lot of value out of that. Did you want to add something there, Ev?
Yeah, it's like a muscle, really. The 3 gratitudes a day is something that I practice for quite some time. It's not something I do at the moment. However, what's happened is when I started doing the 3 gratitudes a day, I found that I couldn't keep it to 3, and it would go to like 10 or 15, and really, like, all of a sudden it expands, and it becomes like the bird chirping outside. Like, I'm grateful for the birds. It just keeps growing, and then it becomes something that happens without working at it, where meeting somebody or something happens that seems like synchronicity, and it's really being in that space of gratitude for all those little things that are happening in your life that are making it as it is. One of the things, and I tell this guy every single time I go to a shop, a new organic store opened up on Yonge Street, just down from my house, and I've been looking for a really good quality produce for quite some time. And finally, somebody with like great integrity that, is really, really watching what he's bringing in his store came. And I send as many people as I can to him. And every single day I go in there and I tell him how such a great job he's doing and how it's making such a huge difference for our family. And it's interesting how that's now creating this relationship with him, where now every single time I come in to that store, he'll give me something. He'll give me some like a figs or some like grapes from somewhere. And it's just like, we've got this amazing relationship, and it's me being grateful for him, and I think he's being grateful for me, and vice versa. And it really just can really create a really wonderful life around us. So I love those points that you came up that you shared with us, Fabrizio, and absolutely massive value for the dads. Thank you.
One of the things that I would tell you is the law of attraction says it very clearly, and that is that whatever you focus on expands. So one of the lessons that I will share with you that was very instrumental in my life is to recognize whether it's personal or professional. If I focus on the good in whatever or whoever, or if I focus on the bad, will determine my outcomes. If you want to sabotage a relationship, no matter whether it's a personal or professional relationship, focus on the negative on that person. And I can tell you, you will not want to be around that person, because all you can think about is the one or two things that annoy you. And even though it may only be 10% of the whole person, the more you focus on that, the more you're going to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm out of here. And I've seen partnerships be broken up because of that. I've seen relationships be broken up before that. And even though you may have 20 years, right, 30 years of a relationship, all of a sudden when you focus on that negative and that becomes so much of your emphasis, then of course the outcome will be, I'm out of here. But it's the same in business too. So pay attention of what you're focusing on in business or in personal relationships, because that's what's going to determine the outcome. The other thing that I tell you, and this is a very important lesson that I've learned over the years, and if there was one lesson that I would leave behind, this will be the one. Your circumstances do not define you. The only thing that defines us as human beings is our ability to respond to those circumstances. We have seen example after example how poverty was the best circumstance for somebody that became a multi-millionaire. We have seen examples how abuse also allows somebody to go into the personal development world and become one of the greatest giants like Tony Robbins. We also know that rape was one of the circumstances that made Oprah be vulnerable enough with her audience that impacted millions of people and connected with her in a level that made her the #1 talk show host of all times. So I'm just saying to you, if you're going through a difficult time right now, understand that that difficult time is not here to victimize you. It's only here to awaken you to the person that you were meant to be. And I'll give it to you in this little story that I was told many years ago, but I never forgot it. There was a little boy named Johnny that was playing in the backyard while his mom was in the kitchen. All of a sudden, Johnny comes running into the kitchen and said, Mommy, look what I found. Grabs her by the hand, takes her to the yard, and shows her and says, look, Mom, what I found. And the mom says, oh, honey, that is where butterflies, it's a cocoon. That is where butterflies come from. There's a little, entity there, that a worm that is trying to transform into a beautiful butterfly. So the little boy, being impatient, goes inside the house, gets a pair of scissors, comes back out and tries to cut the cocoon. And the mom says, no, sweetie, you cannot do that, because it's in the struggle of breaking that cocoon that helps transform into a butterfly. You see, I've learned that the struggles in my life have been my greatest teachers. When I've chosen to look at them as only an opportunity to transform into the person that I was meant to be. All of us have a higher potential that we are capable of as dads, as human beings, as bosses, as employees, as husbands, as boyfriends. You have a much greater potential than you're living, but it all depends on your attitude towards the circumstances that you're facing. If you want to be victimized like over 80% of the public, then you will live in survival. If you want to use those circumstances to prop you and to push you and to motivate you and inspire you to be the person you were destined to be, you will live in abundance. It's that simple. So pay attention to your responses. If you feel like you're reacting to things, take a little time, go somewhere where you can take deep breaths, and then maybe respond to whatever's going on. But don't do it out of reaction, because most of the time, unfortunately, that's going to lead to a negative outcome. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in my life.
I think it's so funny that you just organically came into that story, because I thought I had this great next question for you, and you already answered it. I was going to say, for the dads who are stuck out there, what's the number one thing you can tell them to become unstuck? But I really think you just answered that question perfectly just then with that. So Ev, did you have anything to add? We're sort of coming up on time here. We want to let Fabrizio go. We know he's busy. Yes.
Well, massive value. And you've touched on health, relationships, mindset, parenting, and passing down our values. I wanted to know what your thoughts are around. I mean, we have, as dads, we are, I think, known still to be, or the generalization is that we're the primary breadwinners. As you said, that's changing and that sort of thing. But still, for the most part, there is that responsibility for most dads, and financial health is of utmost importance. And wondered if you have any foundational, not sure what the word is, foundational processes that will really help dads from where they are now, build a healthy financial future.
That's a great question. So the first one is what I say when I tell you that your net worth is directly proportional to your self-worth. The more you value yourself, the more that others will value you. That's a very basic foundation for building wealth. You have to know that you're worthy of attracting abundance, of attracting wealth. Otherwise, you may attract it and sabotage it the way that most people do. Most of the time that happens because you don't think you're worthy. If you were raised poor, you think, oh my God, I can lose this at any time. And I met billionaires that would not spend a penny on themselves because they're so afraid of losing it instead of enjoying the fruits of their labor. So that would be my first one. The second one will be to live within your means. A lot of the stress on dads, in my opinion, based on my experience of what I've heard on the radio and many other circumstances and workshops that I've done, is the fact that many times the dad, if they're the main providers, they feel trapped that you're living a lifestyle that you can't afford. Many times, as you know, we live on credit, right? It was Warren Buffett that said that if there was one advice that he will give people to become wealthy, is stop charging things you can't afford to pay for. It's that simple. So my suggestion to you is evaluate your lifestyle. You know, I did a segment for Fox News that said that the happiness of a household, and this is after 500,000 households were surveyed, 500,000, does not change after $75,000 of income for the household. That means that it doesn't require more money for you to be happy. What it requires is for you to truly put the value and the expense or the investment in the things that truly matter, not in the things that you're trying to keep up with others, not in the things that you want to impress people, not in the things that you feel like this is going to make you feel better about yourself, even though you are getting deeper and deeper in debt. So live within your means. The third one that I would tell you that has been a very big one for me is to surround yourself with people that are more wealthy than you. You know, there is something that happens when we vibrate at a higher level when we surround ourselves with people that are wealthier than us. And we pick up a lot of great tips on mindset. Well, how do you think about money? And you also pick up some great behaviors, So that would be the third lesson. The fourth lesson I learned from a dear friend of mine, Dr. John DeMartini, and he told me the law of compound. You know how when you save $100 within 7 years, even if you don't put any more money down, that $100 multiplies and doubles. But if you keep putting money, even though it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but if you keep putting money away every single week, even a small amount, you can actually become a millionaire very quickly. So think about all the things that you're spending money on right now that you could be putting away into savings. Most people do not pay themselves first. Most people pay everybody else, and then they decide, what am I going to get when everything is left over? The problem is, most of the time, there's nothing left over. In fact, you're in a deficit. So the philosophy of paying yourself first is to encourage you to save a percentage of your income. You can start as low as 2%, 3%, 5%, and build yourself up to as much as you want to. But the more you save, the more that you'll be able to build your wealth, and the faster that you'll be able to build your wealth. Without saving, there is no compounding. Many people ask Warren Buffett, how did he became the wealthiest man in the world? And it was because he was a saver. And it wasn't until he married his wife that his wife was the one that said, honey, you can't take this with you. Let's start doing philanthropic work. And then he began to give money away, to the point that now, after she passed away, he decided to give away his fortune to the Bill Gates Foundation, where now he's already given away his multiples of billions of dollars for the benefit of others, because he knows that he's not going to take it with him. So became the biggest philanthropist in the world because he learned that lesson. And if you don't want to save for yourself for the sake of your family, save for the sake of giving to those causes that you believe in, because that's the only way you're gonna grow. So those are at least some that I've learned over the years that are very effective.
Love it. Fantastic. I was thinking as you were speaking, I can't wait to listen to this again. Truly, I've been writing notes. You have a way with words, Fabrizio, and putting it in a way that I think dads are really going to learn. It's going to be impactful. It's really in alignment with the Daddiest values and the vision that we have with Daddiest. And we're absolutely so grateful that you took the time to be with us today and to share your experience of your life and all the lessons that you've learned through the years. We feel really blessed to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks so much for being on the show. Yeah, just thank you for being on the show, and best of luck in the future with all your amazing things. I really do look up to you as a mentor. So thanks so much for just being you.
And I will share one final thought. I want you to know that being a father is the greatest honor that any human being can have. And having your children and nurturing your children, investing in your children is the best legacy that you will leave behind. All I want you to know is when you look at yourself today in the mirror, be grateful to be a dad because it's a gift. There's so many dads right now that cannot conceive, right? They're struggling. They're paying thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to get pregnant as a couple. I want you to know you're not there. You have an opportunity, no matter how late, how big your children are. Every single day counts. And I promise you, investing in your children, you will leave a legacy forever, forever. So thank you for having me. And, if you go to my website, you can also download some of the top 5 personal development lessons that I've learned of how you can implement that to become the best dad that you can be. So feel free to get those resources if you want. But I just want you to know I'm an honor to be with you. And I honor the fact that you are a dad. And I honor you too for what you've created and the way that you keep inspiring us every single time that we produce a podcast in order to appreciate very much the fact that we're very blessed to be a dad.
Thank you.
Great. That's great last words to end on there. So the website, guys, is drfabmancini.com. So DrFabMancini. It'll be on the show notes page. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a great value for us, and I'm sure the dads will get it too. So check out his website, and I'm sure you'll see him around now that you are aware of who he is and what he's doing. I'm sure you'll see him around because what you focus on magnifies.
Thanks for listening. Remember, join our Facebook community, Daddiest, where conscious dads connect and collaborate.